Everybody, welcome to a Wonderful Machine open house. We're pretty excited to have everybody here. This is our first time trying the webinar format, so apologies for the panelist link. Don't worry, we won't make you present. Just go to the link in the chat and you can attend as an attendee. Just a really quick intro about Wonderful Machine. If you haven't heard of us until you got this random email from us, we are a small art production company out of Philadelphia. We're almost completely remote now. We have 3 different departments. We have a membership department where we promote our member photographers. We have a production department where we do a lot of pricing and negotiating and also producing large productions and small productions. We also have a consulting department where we consult with photographers on everything from marketing to design and SEO and analytics. So we do a lot of different things. If you're curious to learn more about any of those things, I'll be putting some links in the chat where you can go and explore and save those links for later. Just some quick introductions. I'm Marianne Lee. I'm one of the project managers in the consulting department. I do a lot of marketing consulting. And Andrew Souders is with us also today. He's in the production department. And our presenter today is a product specialist from Capture One, Alex Lopez. Alex is going to go over everything pretty thoroughly. So we'll go through the questions at the end. If she's already answered them, we may skip over them. The other exciting thing that's happening today, other than all of the people who thought they had to present suddenly and don't have to present, is that Alex is going to provide us with a promo code where everybody can get a discount on the Capture One software. So I'm also going to put a link in the chat to a Google form where we'll collect your name and email address. And if you put that in there, we'll be happy to send you the promo code after the event. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Alex to get the presentation started. Thanks.
Thank you. So thanks, Marianne, for the introduction, and thanks everybody for joining today. As Marianne said, my name is Alex Lopez. I'm a product specialist at Capture One, and I'm really happy to be working with Wonderful Machine today to do this demo on the Capture One for iPhone app. Well, the Capture One mobile app, actually, because it also works for the iPad. Very similarly, is actually one of my favorite things of the iPhone app. It's that the interface and the whole feel of it, it's very, very similar to the iPad app. You can actually see that it's built in the same time, and it's kind of the same product. The only difference is format, the device where you're using it. But other than that, if you are familiar with the iPad app, then I think the iPhone app will be pretty easy for you. In case that you're not familiar, it would also be easy because it's a very intuitive interface, and you'll see in a minute. So before we jump right on, where I'll be sharing my phone screen and we'll be covering a whole workflow from start to end, I wanted to let you know a little bit more of what is the iPhone app about and who is it for. So the iPhone app of Capture One, it's basically for tethering. Doesn't mean that there is no editing features on it. There is plenty of editing features, basic editing at least, but the whole point is to use it for tethering. This was a huge bet for Capture One. Like tethering on the phone was not a thing until we came up with it. I think that other apps were doing something similar, but not really. So this is actual tethering. So that means that all your photos are being stored on your phone, actually in real time. So that's what it's about. So you will be wondering now, okay, so who is this for, or why or when would I be tethering into my phone? So basically, the iPhone app is thought for whoever is shooting on location and with a small team of people. So think about it. You're working with maybe a model and a client, or maybe a stylist. Collaboration is a key aspect of your project. So everybody that is on set needs to be on the same page about what we are doing, what we are shooting, how it's being styled, how does it look like. So when you're on location, it's not always possible to bring a laptop or an iPad, even though the iPad's smaller. It may not be ideal to bring a laptop or an iPad. So this is where the iPhone comes in. It's this powerful device that we all carry around at all points. Well, except if you're on Android, then I'm afraid that we are not having an Android app yet. But for anyone that is using an iPhone, basically it's a super powerful device that you're carrying everywhere. Why not use it for your photo work as well? It's super powerful, it's super speedy, and it has like the best of the Capture One tethering, but into your smaller device. So as I said, today we're going to be covering the full workflow from tethering to editing to exporting and sharing. And we will also be covering one of the collaboration tools in Capture One, which is called Capture One Live, and it's a cloud service. And a version of it is included with the apps. So I'm going to show you how to use it. So here in the back, you can see I created a little still life set, nothing too fancy, but just so you could see how we are doing things. So before I start with the iPhone screen, actually, I wanted to show you what you need in order to tethering to your phone. So first of all, obviously, you need a tether cable. Can be any sort of cable for data transfer. And you also need, obviously, an adapter. So we always recommend to use the Apple official camera adapter, only because it's the one that we are 100% sure it works, because there's some other party adapters, some may work, some may not work, or may not work as well or as stable. So this is why we would recommend using the original Apple adapter. Now there's two different versions of them. So I got here this one that is like a little bit wider, because it includes the tethering port and also a charging port. So this is useful for when you need to spend a lot of hours shooting on location, and you may want to be able to charge your phone simultaneously through a power bank. So this is why I got this one. I always like to keep it safe. So I thought it's not ideal when you have to charge your phone in the middle of the session and then you have to disconnect the camera, start shooting to your card. That all seemed kind of messy to me. So this is why the other one is more aesthetically pleasing. I'll give you that. But I prefer this one because it's a little bit more robust. So with that out of the way, I think that we can actually now start sharing the screen. Okay, so what I'll be doing is I'll be holding my phone here. I will be sharing directly from my phone screen. This is why there's two me's on this meeting. And then I will keep the camera open so that you can see some little gestures I'll be showing. So let's go ahead and share the screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. All right, you should be able to see my screen now. Great. Okay, so first of all, let's start with an interface rundown. So I don't really know how to, excuse me, I don't really know how to hide my video on the phone. I think it's not possible, really. So I'll be, from time to time, doing this little gesture so that I can show you exactly what you need to see on the interface. Okay, so this is the main interface. You can see there is the albums that I already created with some previous photos that I took. So for example, this one, it's just a really quick interface run through so that you know what's what. Here inside the album, we can see all the photos that are in them. And then if we click on the photo, if we tap on the photo, actually, we will see the photo full screen. So this is the editing module. So you can see here, this is where all the options are for like review, like rating and tagging, styles, which is, in case you're not familiar with the Capture One language, it's how we would call presets. And then we have the cropping, adjustments, and sharpening, which I'll be covering in a second. On top here, we have some options on the top right corner. I'll cover those later when we go into the editing module. So let's go back for now. And again, this is the album. And if we want to go back to the main interface, we just go on the top left corner, albums, we tap on there, and we are back to the main interface. So you can see those here. And then underneath, there is the Capture One albums that are always there with your app. Doesn't really matter what you created or not. So there is always these albums, all images, latest import, all captures, and the trash. So this would be like the library where you organize your stuff. Then actually, I think that we are going to do that now. So when we start a tethering project, or it could be also editing, we can also import photos. That would be the second module. But it's always a good idea, I think, to create a new album for new projects, just to make sure that everything's on the right place. So on the top right corner, you can see this folder with the plus icon. So if we tap on there, then we can create a new album. So in this case, I'm going to call it Wonderful Machine, and that's going to be my demo album for today. Great. So that album's created. If I tap on it, there's nothing on it. We already have the option to import photos if we wanted to do that, but we're not going to be doing that today because we're going to be tethering. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do before I jump on to connect the camera is I'm going to press and hold on the Wonderful Machine album, and you can see that a submenu drops. And this is a very important menu with a lot of things. So you could also import photos from here, rename the album, share online, which I'll be showing that later. And what I'm going to be doing now is to assign as a capture album. When you do that, you can see that a little folder with a camera icon appears on your album. And this is how you know that all your new captures will be coming into that album and not any other. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and see the rest of the interface. So here on the import, we have this drop app menu that allows us to import photos either from the Photos app or from the files. You could do that if you wanted to. But as I said, what I'm be doing today is I'm going to connect my camera. So right now there is nothing connected. So this is where my adapter and the cable comes in. So I'm going to put the cable into the adapter. The adapter into your phone is just like a standard lighting port. So that goes in there and turning on my camera. And you can see that it's already connected. So actually the moment I turn it on, it's already there. Super snappy, super simple. This is a Canon camera. It's actually a pretty old Canon, but I'm kind of fond of it. So I still use it for demos from time to time. Just a disclaimer, if you have other camera brands like Sony, Nikon, I believe also Fujifilm, you may need to go into your camera menu and enable tethering. It's in like the data storage menu. So like, no, it's like called USB-C or options or PC remote, I think it's called in Sony. So it different a little bit from camera manufacturer to another. So, but yeah, it may be that you need to do that. So once the camera is connected and before we start shooting, I wanted to show you what happens when we tap on the three dots right next to the camera name. So if we tap on there, we have two options. We can either disconnect it or we can go into the settings. So if we go into the settings, you can actually see that Capture One in your phone becomes an extension of the camera menu. The amount of control you have over the camera settings also varies depending on what camera manufacturer you're using. But you will always have at least these things like shutter speed, aperture, ISO, exposure compensation, white balance, and all the main settings for the camera in order to take photos will always be there. So it kind of becomes an extension of your camera. So for example, for things like that, what I'm going to be shooting today, which is a still life, it may be better that it may be preferable to not touch the camera or to touch the camera as little as possible so that we can do it from the phone without affecting the scene. And then we have some additional options. So we can change everything from like the image format that we are using. In this case, we can save it to Capture One only, so that will be only on your phone. You could choose to save it both to your SD card and Capture One, or just to your SD card, which would be actually doing nothing. So that's not what we want. So we would always want to choose either Capture One or Capture One plus the memory card. Also, another disclaimer, this option also may not be available for all camera brands. So check in about that before you get too excited about that. I know Canon does and Sony does as well. Some of the camera brands, I don't know them all by heart, but I know that some camera models do have this option to save to card and Capture One simultaneously, and some of them don't. We would love to support everyone in keeping a duplicate of their photos, but sometimes technical difficulties get in. But yeah, just so you know that in case that you don't see that on your app or it's not available for you, just so you know why. And then basically we have everything that's connected to the cameras, like color space. As I said, it's basically an extension of your camera, and you can use your phone to control your camera. Okay, another one last camera setting worth mentioning is the USB charging. So the most smaller cameras, they are available for USB charging. That will mean that while you tether, the camera battery will start taking power from the USB device. In this case, when you're tethering into your phone, you want to disable that because otherwise the connection may start dropping. It may become unstable. It's not thought for that scenario. It's thought for when you are shooting with a laptop, with a more robust device that is also charging from the power simultaneously. So if you tether into your phone, you want to disable the USB charging option, just so you know that. Okay, so I think we covered now all the camera settings. So let's go into the albums. Let's go into our capture album, Wonderful Machine, and let's see what happens. So let's just start shooting. Camera went to sleep, but it's still there. Okay, and there we go. Of course, it's completely out of focus. So let's go and fix that. So I'm gonna use simply the live view on my camera. And I'm gonna try to get it as accurate as possible. Okay, let's go with that. Shooting again. That's looking better. And you can actually see how fast it is. So the moment you press the shutter, it's there. And this is a full RAW file. Disclaimer, it's not a JPEG. This is not why it's fast. It's fast because it's fast. So how can we know, for example, if things are on focus? So this is why I kept my camera around to show you some little gestures, trying to not catch the reflection. That might be kind of tricky. But if you want to zoom in 100%, just like super standard gesture, just like pinch with 2 fingers, and that would give you a zoom. And we can see that I pretty much nailed the focus this time. If we wanted to change it around, we can always go back and do that. Okay, it may be a little bit too dark, so we may want to go now into, we may want to go back into the connection module and give it a little bit more. Yeah, just like a third of a stop maybe would be nice. So we don't need to be on the exact photo to shoot. So they will be coming in whatever we choose. If we choose there, we can see actually that it's coming right through. So if I keep the photo open and I shoot again, it's coming right in. Okay, so that's a good starting point. Another one of the things that is very convenient about tethering with Capture One in general and with your phone in particular is that it works exactly the same as when you're tethering the laptop. When you put some adjustments in for one photo, automatically by default, all the next captures that you take are going to be using the same adjustments, which I think it's pretty cool, because when you're shooting with someone on location and you're shooting with a client or with a model or whoever on your team, you may not want them to see the rawest raw files. So it's a good thing to add some adjustments on top so that you can make it a little bit more similar to how it's going to be. Actually, that was already adjusted from my previous rehearsal. So if you're wondering how I got back to the originals, you can actually see this little arrow on the top next to the camera name, next to the file name, sorry. So if I press and hold that, I have different options. I have these 3 little arrows. So the first one would be undo. The second one will be redo. And then the third one, it's for completely restarting the settings. So that's actually the raw file. And how do we want to take it from there? So one of the things that I would like to do here is, let's just turn off my live view for now on the camera. So if we go into styles, we have here all of these styles. So we could do like a black and white thing. I don't think it's like the wisest in this kind of photo. We have some basic edits like bright contrast or less contrast. I really like the creative edits and the film and cinema looks. I think I'm going to go with the airy summer this time because it's actually summer. It's not so airy. It's like really hot in Madrid. This is where I'm joining from, in case you didn't know. And we are about 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of the afternoon/evening. So yeah, you can definitely feel the summer. So that's what I'm going for. Okay, so I'm adjusting this. And then maybe I'm going to do some other adjustments. So for example, I may want to crop this picture to a square format. Let's think that we are doing this session for Instagram, for some social media accounts who hired us to create content for Instagram. So we may want to do that. We can rotate, obviously, but then we can also, if we go here next to the angle, to this little different squares that is now highlighted blue, we can actually see that we have different aspect ratios. So we're going to choose the square one this time, just to make sure that we are adapting to the Instagram format. So let's go with that. We could also do keystone if we are shooting things like architecture or something like that. We don't need to do that in this case, but we're good. Now we have a square crop, that's great. And we can also, of course, fine tweak the adjustments. So maybe we choose the style as a starting point, and then we can readjust things. So this is where all the adjustments are. So the first one is black and white. We can again choose if we want to activate or not the black and white. You can also see the filters like very similarly to what you would see on the iPad interface or even on the desktop interface. But as I said, we're not doing black and white today. We can adjust the white balance, of course. So this is how we would do it. I think I like better with a little bit of a green tint. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but I actually really like cool tones in my photos. And for here, I'm going to go a little bit warmer. Then here on the exposure tab, we have all the basic adjustments in Capture One Pro. So see, this is one of the things that I really like is the consistency among all the different interfaces in the Capture One ecosystem. Because the exposure tool in the iPhone and the iPad app, they include exactly the same settings as you would find in the desktop app. So if you're familiar with that one, on the exposure tool in Capture One, you would have exposure, contrast, brightness, and saturation. So we can increase the contrast a little bit. We can play around with the brightness, maybe reduce the brightness just a little bit. And the saturation, maybe, I think it's fine like that, because if we desaturate it, it's kind of weird. If we saturate it, it's kind of too much. So let's just keep it at 0. Again, if you wanted to undo any of the settings, you just go here to this arrow and then undo and then redo. So this is how we would do it. Great. Now we have some of the settings like black and white points. So if we want to create a little bit more contrast, we could do it like that. The adjustments that are already here are actually there because of the style that we applied. So this is style that we applied, this filter that we applied, it already have the settings in. So this is why we're seeing some things are being adjusted. Then moving on to clarity, we can also add clarity if we need to. I think a little bit of clarity will do nicely here. And then we have a dehaze tool, which is pretty self-explanatory. And a really cool one is the color editor. So the color editor is kind of the Capture One version of the hue, saturation, lightness. And this is precisely the things that we find here. So first of all, we need to pick the color that we want to use. So let's say, for example, that I want to pick the red and tweak the hue and the saturation a little bit. So I would just go and pick the red sample, and then I move on to hue, and then over to the right, we make it a little bit more orange, a little bit to the left, and we would make it magenta. So we can choose what we like best. I'm actually going to desaturate it just a little bit. Okay, so if we want to see full screen, we just tap once on the screen. So just so you know, so if I tap once, that would bring back the tools. If I tap once again, we would see full screen. If we want to see before and after, we just need to press and hold. So that's before, that's the after, and you can see that with just these little tweaks, it has come a long way. And it's actually pretty amazing, I think, that you can do all of this on your phone and that everyone is able to see it right on the spot. So one of the reasons why I think it's great to use the phone screen instead of the camera screen, it's first of all because you may not be pretty excited about letting your client hold your camera. There is some clumsy people around there, and you may not want that to affect the flow of your session. And the other thing is that some people who are not used to shooting with cameras, often they may not really know your camera model, or they may really know cameras in general, so they may have a hard time like passing photos right to left. Meanwhile, everybody has a phone, and we are so used to this kind of gestures. It just comes very naturally. So if you want to see the picture before, you just do like that. And this is how you are browsing the whole session. And of course, meanwhile, you can still shoot. So you can hold the camera, and then someone else can hold your phone and see what you're doing. And if they want to zoom in, as I said, again, it's just a pinch gesture. It's super convenient and super intuitive. So there's that. Okay, so we have the settings applied now. And now that we have everything as we like it, let's just shoot a couple more photos and see how the adjustments come in the same way. Okay, so to make it a little bit more exciting, let's try some different positions of the compass. So maybe trying to ditch the reflection as well. So let's see how that goes. Okay, that's not great. So I'm going to use the live view on the camera again, just for a little bit more help. Let's try this angle instead. And yeah, you can basically shoot as much as you want. Obviously, we need to focus again. Let's do that. There we go. Now that's on focus, and now we can shoot again. And I really like how flexible is this, and you can try many different things, many different combinations. Let's go for one last. Okay, great. So I actually like the first picture better, so that's what I'm going to be picking. So now that I have my pick, how do we actually do that? So let's go all the way back. So this is the one I liked, even though I have the reflection, I don't really care about that. So I'm gonna review it. So here on the bottom, you have next to the styles, the crop, and the adjustments that we already saw. You also have the review, and then you can either rate it or rate it or tag it. I'm actually going to do both this time, so I'm going to give it 5 stars, and then I'm going into tagging, and I'm tagging it red. So typically, I always use the same color codes to remind myself what is my pick, or which is the one that I like. So typically, I would do red for a pre-selection, and once those photos are edited and ready to be processed, I would switch them to green just to remind myself I already worked on this photo. So this is how I typically do it, but you don't need to do it the same way. Obviously, it's just a workflow tip I wanted to share. And totally unrelated to the iPhone, but still think pretty useful. Okay, so now that's rated and tagged. We could also do some sharpening if we wanted to. I think it's the sharpening fine is, I think it's sharpening is fine. Maybe we just want to add some film grain to give it a little bit more extra texture. And then we go back into the album, and now among all the photos that we shot, we have this one that is rated and tagged. So how can we filter that? So now if we are into the album, on the top right corner, we can see there is a 3-dot option. So we can go in there, and you can either select the photos if you want to do like tagging multiple photos. So let's say, for example, that I may want to use this one, but I want to do this one. You can add them to a different album or process them separately. In this case, I'm going to cancel that. And then you can also sort or filter. This is what I'm going to choose right now. I'm going to filter, and I'm going to filter by red tags because I know that's my sign for when my photo is selected. So that would give me the filter and just show me the photo that I'm working on, just so you know that that's how it works. And some other options we have here, we have the same options that we covered before on the main interface. So import, rename album, unassign, capture album, and also the save to cloud sync and the sharing online. So this is what we are going to be doing now, actually. We are going to be sharing online. So how would we actually do this? So this option is available from different parts of the interface. So you can find it here on the 3 dots. Next to the 3 dots, again, on the top right corner, you can also see this icon that looks like this old messenger program with a plus. So if we click on there, that's gonna actually direct you directly to where you need to go. So what is this actually? This tool is called Capture One Live. It's a different service from iPhone, but it's also included with the iPhone and the mobile apps in general. So it's a cloud service, and it allows you to share a session through the cloud with anyone you want. And you can do that through 2 different vias. So you can do it via email, where you can directly invite people to join via email. That's for a little bit of extra security. And also a nice thing is that you can give different permissions to different people. So you can give someone the permission to tag but not rate, or someone the permission to rate but not tag, in case different people need to give feedback. And then you can also give anyone the full permission. What I'm going to be doing now, instead of just typing all your emails there, is I'm going to give you all rate, tagging, and comment permissions, and I'm going to copy this share link. And now what I'm going to do is, let me see if this actually works. It does work sometimes. Yes, great. So this is why I like Apple devices, because it is just so nice that you can copy a link in one of your devices and then just send it directly to just paste it from another device. So I just drop, oh, I need to make it for everyone. I don't think I can make it for anyone. So any of the panelists over there can share this link publicly. That would be great. Are you actually seeing that on the chat?
It looks like Marianne has it in the chat right now for us.
Great. So you can jump on. It may be that not all of you are able to jump on, because there's a limitation to this for 15 people to jump on simultaneously. So there may be that. So it may be that you need to take turns. This is also a security feature. So now, basically I pasted this link on the chat. So now you are able to access my session and you can also do follow mode. So basically I may just share my laptop screen for a second, just to make sure that you understand how this interface works. So I'm going to stop my phone share for a moment. And instead, I'm going to be sharing my screen on the laptop, just to make sure that you know how this works. Okay. So you should now be seeing my laptop screen actually. And I have here my session. So for example, I have this yellow tag that probably some of you already gave because I don't remember doing that. This is my selection. And then, for example, if you want to go ahead and comment it, you can actually go and say, great, I love that one. Yeah, someone already commented. Awesome, that's great. Glad you like it. Okay, great. So now actually I can see that you're already doing that. It's great to have a proactive crowd that is rating and tagging pictures and whatnot. Another interesting thing is if you just go into this picture that is my pic, the red tag and so on, and now I would go onto my phone and start adjusting that. So I'm just going to do something very drastic so that you can see the difference. So I'm just going to go into the exposure and I'm going to drop it drastically. You can see the adjustments changing live as I do it, and it's super snappy. So I cannot share both screens simultaneously for you to see, unfortunately, but it's super snappy. You can try it out anytime. Also, something I forgot to say is that there is a trial for the mobile apps for 7 days. So if you want to go ahead and try it, yeah, you can do that starting today until you receive your promo code. Okay, so in case someone didn't see, again, something drastical. So I can completely tweak this image. And that's how we would do it. And I'm going to undo some of these crazy settings. And that's where we were before. Another interesting thing in the live module is going back to the main interface here. So there is this, well, there is different things. There is this binocular option that is for following the live capture. So that's also pretty exciting. So if we go back, I'm just going to show you again so that you can do the same. Just go into this binoculars, click on it, and you would start going into follow mode. So that actually means that this is pretty cool. So I'm going to stop sharing my laptop and I'm going to go back to sharing my phone. So there we go. Now you should be seeing my phone again. All right. Let's just go back into Capture One. Let's just go into the last one. And what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to take a couple more shots. So when you're in follow mode, actually, you can see that it's updating. So it's kind of like being present on the session without being present on the session, which is, I think, pretty amazing. Not only for the moments where someone needs to be there, but it's working remotely for whatever reason. We all know that remote work is every time more and more a thing. So it may be that, but it also may actually be that you are shooting somewhere else in a different part of the location, and you may not want someone to hold your phone meanwhile. So you can start this live session the moment you start the shooting, and then that person will be able to follow simultaneously, even like if he's holding, even if they're holding the camera, and they are able to see it with you step by step, and also comment on your progress as you go, in case they are not in person with you. Okay, so that is Capture One Live. I can see that, let's go back into the album. I can see that you tag different things. So for example, I can see some different tags. So what I'm going to do now, just to finish up, I can see this on my little camera, and I'm getting nervous when I leave my live view open. So I already closed that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to filter by everything that has a tag on it, and I'm going to process it and I'm going to share it. So how you do that is you can either just go into select and select all of these photos. You could add them into a different album if you wanted to. You could duplicate them if you wanted to try a different version, like a black and white. It wouldn't actually duplicate the file. It would just create like a virtual copy of it on your phone so that you can try out different stuff. In this case, what I'm going to do is simply just go on to export. And then here we have the different export options. So we can either keep the standard file name or give it a custom name. We can choose between all of these different formats. So JPEG, TIFF, original, that would be if we just wanted to export the raw file. And then also we have the EIP. The EIP, in case you're not familiar with this. Oh, there's suddenly some weird echo of mine. Okay, I think it's good now. So I was saying the EIP format, in case you're not familiar with it, it's a Capture One native format. Think of it as like a zip package where you can store the raw file, the adjustments, the ratings, and the metadata. So basically everything that Capture One needs that you need to take it off where you started in another device, but just on a specific file. And if you export the EIP and I transfer it to my computer right now, I would be able to just open it on Capture One desktop and keep working where I left off. In this case, I'm going to just choose the JPEG format. We have different versions for scale, so we can either choose full scale, web optimized, and Instagram, or a custom kind of size and quality and so on. I'm going to rely on the Instagram formula right now because theoretically we said that this was a session for someone who commissioned some photos for their social media. We could also watermark it if we wanted to. I'm not going to do that right now, but we could do that. So once that we have chosen how we want these export settings to go, then we should just go on the top right. There is the export option. So we just tap on there. And that's processing. And once that it's done, we have all of these different options. I like how it integrates with the iPhone files interface. So we could airdrop it, for example, which is what I'm going to do now. We could share it on social media, or we could upload it to a cloud like Dropbox. Sorry, I was just reading AirDrop and I got confused. So Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, whatever. We could also save it to the phone or whatever else. So in this case, I'm just going to airdrop it to my nearest device, which is my laptop, obviously. And am I receiving those or am I still waiting for it? There we are. Okay. So we show them on the Finder. Just gonna take them out of my super messy download folder, and then I'll share the screen with you again. So let's just go again to Zoom, and I'm going to stop sharing the phone screen right now, for now, until the Q&A come. Then I may need to share it again. So now sharing my laptop screen again. Let's go with that. And here now you can see all of these images coming in with our settings and everything, the right resolution, the right compression, and all ready to be shared with whoever you need or in whatever platform you need to do that. Okay, so this is it from me. Let's open the floor for the Q&A if you agree.
Yeah, I think that's great. We have some great questions in the Q&A already. One of the first ones here from Fernando is that we mentioned we don't have an Android app for this yet, but is that something that's in development, or are there plans to create that?
Unfortunately, not for now.
Okay.
So being totally honest with you, I don't think that's going to happen in the near future.
Cool. And then we have another from Stephen here. If we already own Capture One, is this a separate version that we would need to purchase, or is that included as a Capture One plan?
So Capture One Mobile is a separate product. So if you own a perpetual license for Capture One Pro, this is a subscription-only product that is $5 a month. Or if you are still using Capture One for desktop and you may want to jump eventually to the latest version, there is an all-in-one bundle, it's called, that it's a yearly subscription that includes the access to Pro, Mobile, and Capture One Live Unlimited. So it's something that you may want to look into in the future.
Okay. Understood.
Okay.
We also have one from Matt Anderson here saying that he's tried Capture One Mobile with his Fuji GFX 100 tethered into an iPad with mixed results. He was asking if the resolution is a limiting factor in performance with Capture One Mobile.
So easier than that, it's resolution is a limiting factor whenever you're doing tethering, no matter the software or the device. So obviously, the heavier your files are, the slower they're going to go. GFX 100 is a heavy lift camera, so it's a very, very heavy file. It's got a lot of resolution, it's got a lot of detail and a lot of information stuck in there. So yes, it's going to be definitely slower than any other 35 millimeter mirrorless camera or whatever other camera sensor format. It is also really hard to know what the issue may be. If there is some incompatibilities with your iPad, maybe we would need to know a little bit more detail as to which iPad you're using or not. But it would be exactly the same lack of performance if you would tether into an old laptop, for example. Actually, the iPads these days, they are the modern iPads with the M1 chips, with the Apple Silicon chips, they're so good and they are so well performing that it may be faster to use an iPad than a laptop that was released 3 years ago, no matter if Apple or Windows. So that's something to take into account always.
And then we have another question from Francesco. Can you transport or export the entire Capture One session to a desktop once you're done mobile?
Yes, so this is why there is the Save to Cloud option, which is a different cloud from Capture One Live, not to be confused, but it's basically a sync feature where you can synchronize your album in the Capture One mobile session into a Capture One desktop session or catalog.
Okay, cool. So we have another question here, and sorry if I butcher this one. The camera shoots at 50M, which I'm assuming is 50 megabyte or megabyte photo size. Are they able to download a proxy and make adjustments to that while saving the raw files to an SD card? So essentially shooting to the tether and then saving to the SD card in the camera.
That's a very good question. Actually, you cannot do that right now, but it's a very popular feature request. Actually, there is a feature request forum in our support site. So you may want to go into that and give it an upvote, because I think that would be a pretty amazing feature. And I also saw that many people think the same thing. Yeah. So we definitely hear the feedback.
And then Lisa had a question here. I missed the beginning. Sorry if you already said, can you receive only JOLs and keep arrays on? Oh, I'm sorry. If I'm butchering this question, can you keep JOLs and keep arrays on the memory card? Are you asking JPEGs, shoot only JPEGs and keep RAWs on the memory card?
Yeah, it's exactly the same as answer as before. So not at the moment, but there's been a lot of feedback about that. So
yeah. And then they were also asking, are you able to share the adapter and cord that you use so everybody can get a look at that?
Yes, of course. So I'm going to unplug it now. So this is basically just a standard tethering cable. It's USB. It needs to be USB-A on that end because that's what the camera adapter is for. So make sure that at least on one end it's USB-A, like the classic big one. And then on the other end, in this case, because this is my old little camera, this is a USB 2 connector, but that may depend on the camera you're using. If you're using a normal modern camera, it will always be USB-C these days. So that's kind of a no-brainer on the cord. Doesn't need to be any specific brand, just make sure it's good for data transfer. And then the adapter, it's this one. It's called Apple Lighting to Camera Adapter. As I said in the beginning, there is 2 versions. There is this one, which is the wider one, that also has the option to charge simultaneously using a power bank. This is the one I chose because I think it's more robust. There is a thin version that only has like the camera connector. That's also good. Just remember to use the Apple one so that we can make sure that we know how to support you in case something goes wrong. And actually worth mentioning that there is a deal on, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention any resellers because there's one that actually has like a bundle pack with like the app and the adapter and the cable. So
that's great.
Can I mention that?
I think we're fine with that. Yeah.
Okay. Because in the US, actually, there is B&H Photo who has a bundle with all of this. So they have like a voucher code for the app. So that includes the mobile apps, so both iPhone and iPad. And the bundle also includes the cable and the adapter that you need, which is exactly this one.
Okay, so it's like an all-in-one.
Yeah, it's an all-in-one, and it may be worth checking it out if you're thinking about starting to tether into your phone, because that's like the easiest way to get it all together and to make sure you're getting the right adapter and everything.
Great. Yeah. So there you go, everybody. B&H Photo, if you want to get all of that in one package. And then it looks like we have another here asking that you might have touched on already, but can you import your own custom styles from Capture One on desktop, say, into the Capture One mobile app?
You're getting me there. I think so. I haven't done that yet on the iPhone app, but I think you are able to. I don't really use styles so much when I'm shooting on the phone. I prefer to do the adjustments manually. I just like use one. So same as I did today, just like I use one of the simple styles that is not super wild. And then I fine tune it with the manual settings. This is why I haven't used it, but I think that you can. Sorry that I don't have a better answer for you. I should have known this.
Oh, no worries. And then Matt, I think you may have covered this question already. Just a good way to get files from device onto desktop. Best way to do that would be either with the cloud or the transfer cable, correct?
Yes. So the more convenient is a cloud transfer. It will transfer the raw file, so it does take a while. So you need to consider that if you are trying to transfer a very big session with a lot of files. It will work. It's very convenient, but you may want to go for a coffee in the meanwhile. So if you want a faster way, you can simply connect the camera to your computer.
There we go.
Or like the
yeah,
phone
so
to the
it would make sense if you're shooting to the card and the camera to just shoot
Yeah.
to transfer it directly to the computer as you normally would.
Definitely, yeah.
Cool. And then we have another question here about saving the photos. Where would those get saved to on the phone? Is there a separate memory essentially folder for that, or does that go into the pictures on the phone?
It does not go.
On that.
It does not go. Yeah, I didn't cover this, so this is a very good question. Thanks. It doesn't go into the Photos app. It goes into your files. So you need to go onto your files, and there is an iPhone folder Capture One, folder created, and this is where your photos will be going.
So in the iOS, there is a Files app that you would be able to open, and then inside of that would be the Capture One saves. Got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. These were all really good questions. I don't think we have any others. Does anybody else have anything they want to type into the Q&A before we start to wrap things up here? Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll hand it back over to you, Marianne.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Alex. That was a good presentation, great demo. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We're so glad that you all could make it. Sorry for the attendee panelist confusion. There's still a few of you on the panelists, but it's cool. We'll keep you there. We're looking forward to holding more open houses in the fall. If you've got any questions about Wonderful Machine, please feel free to go over to wonderfulmachine.com. There's plenty of email addresses and information all over the website. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have a great weekend.